What happens when tenants band together to take on a powerful landlord? This legal battle unfolding in Rockford is a striking example of what can happen when the needle finally tips towards justice. The city's lawsuit against the landlord of Versailles Place could set a new precedent for how rental disputes are handled, not just locally, but across the nation. Could this be the start of a dramatic shift in tenant rights and landlord accountability? Welcome to Court Decoded. Today, we're diving into a groundbreaking case that's capturing the attention of renters everywhere. Rockford tenants are relying on a city lawsuit to hold a notorious landlord accountable. This isn't just a local issue, it's the front line of a national conversation about renters' rights and landlord responsibilities. Join us as we dissect the legal battle poised to change the rental landscape. In Rockford, Illinois, a simmering conflict between tenants and their landlord at Versailles Place reached a boiling point, leading to a lawsuit that has riveted the community. Rental apartments, often a symbol of security, became grounds for strife as residents alleged chronic neglect and mismanagement. Pervasive issues such as unsafe living conditions, inadequate maintenance, and unresponsive management have plagued tenants across the sprawling complex. This state of affairs became untenable, mobilizing tenants into action, driven by the collective frustration of living in subpar conditions with little to no response from the property owners. A catalyst for the lawsuit was the accumulation of complaints that seemingly went unheard, including broken elevators, pervasive mold, and heating issues, among others. These circumstances illuminated the tenants' desperation and the stakes of their legal actions. The residents began to document their grievances meticulously, realizing that their plight was a common one shared by many. Their decision to engage the city was born out of necessity, a last resort to enforce their rights where private negotiations had failed. The foundation of the lawsuit was built upon this chronicled negligence and the callous disregard for tenant safety and health, setting the stage for a pivotal confrontation in court. The legal machinery that paved the way for the city's lawsuit against the Versailles Place landlord was complex yet meticulous. This action primarily hinges on alleged violations of local housing codes, which are regulations intended to ensure buildings are safe, sanitary, and fit for habitation. Rockford city officials, upon receiving an overwhelming number of complaints, conducted inspections revealing substantial code violations, which became the factual backbone of the lawsuit. The Rockford lawsuit isn't merely about addressing these violations. It challenges broader systemic issues regarding landlord accountability. City attorneys argue that the neglect constitutes a breach of the implied warranty of habitability, a legal principle requiring landlords to maintain rental properties in a fit condition for habitation. This doctrine is fundamental in landlord-tenant law, mandating housing standards that ensure tenants live in safety and reasonable comfort. The lawsuit serves as a crucial message to landlords who habitually ignore their obligations. By enforcing the law, the city aims to set an example and deter similar conduct. Moreover, the case underscores tenants' rights to seek governmental intervention when private remedies fail. The stakes extend beyond local boundaries, potentially inspiring ordinances and enforcement actions in municipalities grappling with inefficiencies in landlord compliance and tenant protections. The transformation of frustrated tenants into a unified front was a pivotal moment in escalating the dispute to a court case. The collaboration among residents of Versailles Place symbolizes a powerful form of grassroots activism within the framework of tenant rights. Overwhelmed by unlivable conditions, tenants engaged in organizing community meetings, forging a collective voice strong enough to attract attention and invoke city intervention. The tenants' mobilization was characterized by strategic activities, including petition drives and public demonstrations. These actions brought visibility to their plight, capturing the attention of local media and advocacy groups. The involvement of tenant rights advocates provided the necessary legal insight and moral support, fortifying the community's resolve. This collective action highlights a significant aspect of tenant law, often overlooked: the power of organization. When tenants align their efforts, leverage local networks, and document injustices thoroughly, they enhance their credibility and undercut landlords' defenses. Rockford's case serves as an inspiring example for other communities facing similar adversities, encouraging proactive organization and utilization of legal frameworks to assert rights. The story of Versailles Place resonates with the ongoing narrative of tenant empowerment within a system that often seems tilted in favor of property owners. Facing a significant lawsuit, the landlord of Versailles Place deployed a range of legal defenses in an attempt to deflect liability. Central to the defense was the argument of tenant exaggeration, with claims that complaints were overstated or fabricated. Additionally, the landlord argued that maintenance issues, while troublesome, were routine and addressed as promptly as resources allowed. These defenses leaned on narratives of logistical challenges and unforeseen circumstances, suggesting that any delays were not reflective of systemic neglect. Legally, the landlord sought to challenge the city's evidence of widespread code violations by contesting inspection results and suggesting potential biases. Tactical delays in hearings and requests for dismissal based on procedural grounds were employed to hinder progress. Moreover, the landlord might argue the principle of de minimis non curat lex, a legal doctrine suggesting that the law does not concern itself with trifles, potentially framing the violations as minor or non-critical. Despite these strategies, the lawsuit's public nature puts additional pressure on the landlord to demonstrate goodwill and a willingness to rectify tenant grievances seriously. The outcome of these legal battles sets a notable stage for examining the efficacy and resilience of tenant advocacy within a judicial context, providing a crucial lens into the balance of real estate power dynamics. City governance plays an instrumental role in reshaping tenant protections and expectations. In Rockford, the city government's decision to file a lawsuit against a major landlord marks an unprecedented step in reinforcing housing standards. By taking legal action, the city is fulfilling its dual obligation to uphold public health and advocate for its residents' rights, stepping beyond traditional regulatory oversight. This case is situated within broader legal precedents, drawing parallels with past actions where municipalities have held landlords accountable for noncompliance. These legal cases highlight the city's authority not only as a regulatory entity, but as a legal plaintiff championing tenant rights. The stakes here involve setting a judicial precedent that could streamline future enforcement actions and refine compliance mechanisms. Moreover, Rockford's proactive lawsuit underlines a shift in municipal strategies, prioritizing legal action in lieu of passive regulation. Success in this endeavor could galvanize other cities grappling with similar housing challenges to adopt an assertive posture through litigation. The results of such cases extend beyond immediate resolutions, driving policy adaptations, influencing legislation, and inspiring community advocacy for accountable housing operation, ultimately reshaping the landscape of landlord-tenant jurisprudence. The unfolding Rockford lawsuit serves as a cornerstone for tenant empowerment, offering insights into legal pathways available for renters. At its heart, the case illustrates the concept of tenant empowerment through legal action, a critical tool for ensuring standards and accountability in the rental market. When governmental bodies actively engage in litigative strategies, they reinforce the notion that tenant rights are inextricably linked to public welfare. This case also fosters broader discourse on the legal rights of tenants, especially concerning the right of habituality and safe, livable homes. It empowers tenants by illuminating actionable legal recourse available when standard civil measures fall short. The legal proceedings highlight critical mechanisms such as documentation, community mobilization, and leveraging governmental resources as potent defenses against systemic neglect. Furthermore, the visibility of these issues serves to educate both landlords and tenants on the significance of legal compliance. A favorable outcome could embolden renters worldwide, reassuring them that legal recourse is not only theoretical, but attainable. The overall narrative reaffirms that while the law is a protector of property rights, it equally safeguards the dignity of those who inhabit rental spaces, making it a dynamic field for social justice advocacy. For tenants seeking legal recourse, the path is fraught with challenges and barriers that can seem insurmountable without collective effort and institutional support. This lawsuit highlights the intricate landscape within which renters operate, when taking on a landlord, particularly one with significant resources. Financial constraints are a primary barrier where legal fees and the costs associated with prolonging cases in court can deter even the most determined tenants. Although the city has stepped in for Rockford residents, many renters elsewhere lack access to such interventions, underscoring disparities in how housing issues are addressed based on geographic and economic factors. Another formidable barrier is the complexity of legal processes, which can be daunting for individuals unfamiliar with statutory and procedural nuances. Furthermore, there is the challenge of building a robust case. Success heavily relies on proper documentation and credible evidence, a task that requires diligence and organization amid difficult living situations. Yet, the Rockford case demonstrates the potential for overcoming such obstacles through strategic community action and governmental support. The case encourages legal reforms and increased accessibility to legal resources at the community level, facilitating easier navigation of judicial systems and empowering tenants to challenge inequitable landlord practices effectively. The Rockford lawsuit against the Versailles Place landlord serves a dual purpose, remedying immediate grievances and setting a potential national precedent for tenant rights. At its conclusion, the case will either reaffirm or redefine the responsibilities of landlords across various jurisdictions, depending on its outcome. The implications are broader than local judgments, as legal precedents offer templates for subsequent cases, influencing future court decisions, landlord practices, and legislative reforms. A court ruling favoring the tenants could precipitate stronger legal frameworks nationwide, prompting stricter enforcement of housing codes and increasing governmental intervention where systemic negligence persists. Conversely, if the ruling upholds the landlord's defenses, it may reinforce current status quos, challenging tenant advocacy groups to reevaluate strategies for legal accountability. The spotlight on Rockford ensures national visibility, stressing the critical need for effective tenant advocacy and vigilance in policy-making processes. Thus, this lawsuit is more than a fight for individual rights. It's part of a broader initiative to redefine the relationship between landlords and tenants, promoting equitable living conditions. The outcome could inspire movements across the United States, establishing a benchmark for collective tenant advocacy within legal systems that often prioritize property over people. As the legal dust settles, the Rockford lawsuit against Versailles Place stands poised to conclude with significant implications. Should the court favor the plaintiffs, a collection of the city's determined renters, it would underscore a growing judicial willingness to hold landlords accountable for systemic neglect. Such a ruling could herald a newfound emphasis on tenant rights within the broader scope of landlord-tenant law, potentially triggering cascades of legislative reform aimed at fortifying housing standards and enforcement actions nationwide. Yet, even if the judgment sides with the landlord, the case has already illuminated critical aspects of tenant empowerment through organized action and city-backed legal interventions. This powerful narrative of tenant unity, systemic negligence, and governmental responsibility resonates profoundly within legal and public consciousness. A decision is not merely an immediate result, but an enduring catalyst, spark to action for communities seeking justice against entrenched property power. The Rockford case highlights vital intersections between local government initiative and tenant advocacy, advocating for robust legal frameworks that ensure habitable living standards as fundamental rights. Regardless of the verdict, the lawsuit leaves an indelible mark on housing rights, with effects potentially echoing across the rental sector for years to come. Thank you for joining Court Decoded on this deep dive into the Rockford lawsuit. This case exemplifies how tenants can mobilize for justice in challenging circumstances. Share your thoughts below. How do you think this case will impact rental laws? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay informed on legal battles shaping our world. Together, let's keep exploring the crossroads of law and human rights.